Time now is 6 o'clock. Welcome back. We'll reconvene here in open session. Dr. McDuffie, can you report out on closed, please? Oh, sorry, roll call.
Mr. Lara,
Here.
Ms. Cabral,
Here.
Mrs. Cordero,
Here.
Mr. Valencia,
Present.
Mr. Hollinshead.
Here. Dr. McDuffie?
No decisions that were made during closed session, just information shared.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll move on to introduction of our interpreters. Tonight's interpreters are Manuel Rios Victoria and Benito Flores, and greeting and support will be provided by Victoria, or has been provided by Victoria Vences. If you are speaking, we would ask you to be sure and speak slowly and be cognizant of the interpreters trying to keep up with you and provide the best work they can for our attendees. And that means for either public comment or for our Fessler Falcons here tonight. You want to please join us and stand for the pledge. Dr. Palmerston, you have somebody?
Wait for them when they're doing it. Okay.
Good evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Good evening. My name is Denise Tadeo, and this is my friend Ivana Reyes Gonzalez. We are 8th graders. For the Fessler Inspiration this evening, you will hear the voices of Fessler Junior students and parents sharing what they love most about our school. You'll see what it means to be SOAR. Let's get started.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Ivana Reyes González y ella es mi amiga Denise Tadeo. Somos estudiantes de 8º grado. Para Fessler Inspiration esta noche, escucharán las voces y experiencias de los estudiantes y padres de Fessler Junior, que compartirán lo que aman de nuestra escuela. Verán el significado de ser SOAR. Comencemos.
Now we'd like to welcome Alma Sanchez.
Hi, Obando Kiviwa Alma Sanchez. Escuela Fessler Shikisa Kwanya Tabo Grado y Inya programa de Aikua Veshi Inga que Kana web leader. Vichiguinga que se compartir sin todo cuenta en da clase na ni computadora ciencia. Nyakoto cuenta Fessler Kenya Tugundina ni Tugundindo Dani Kenya Fessler. Iyo kwana yuvi na yuvi vada kwana maestro administradores iyo kuenda oportunidad tashna dana ina kwachi na chindena shi educación shi chakwa kona yuvi daba sha cuenta electivo nyeo ni comillo computadora ciencia ku inte chinde kwana kwachi dayu nya koto clase en clase se kwai se programa en computadora se va una dimensión proyecto shi se va en da cuenta ni inspirable shi ni va shi en da ni proyecto que se va ku en da ni plano cuenta en apartamento na ya niña na ya kuya se va ni in daña apartamento de shana con nas swai diseña Fessler ku in da escuela va shindeña chinde kwana kwachi dasha kwana oportanda no in kwachi na ku in dige sepseta cuando chances. Good evening, my name is Alma Sanchez, and at Fessler I am an 8th grader and an avid. I am a web leader. Tonight, I would like to share about our computer science class. My favorite thing about Fester that I would like for everyone to know is that the Fester is a welcoming school filled with many amazing teachers, administrators, and people in general. There's a lot to give and provide to each student in order to be able to advance more in education, but also in life as well. When it comes to electives, computer science is one to help many students, and it has become one of my favorite classes. In this class, I have learned to 3D print, deal with coding, and make one of the most amazing and inspiring projects, which was creating a floor plan for an apartment. This apartment floor was something unique. It's something I would love to have as an apartment. And in future times, I hope to be able to make this into a real structure. In general, Fester is one to provide with many opportunities to each student who is willing to accept the chances. Now, I'd like to introduce Jaslyn and Jocelyn.
Good evening. My name is Jaslyn Ramirez.
And I'm Jocelyn Marcial.
We are
We are
seventh
seventh
graders
graders
at
and also-
Fessler. And
Wait. Sorry.
1, 2, 3. We are seventh graders at Fessler involved in art club. Tonight, we would like to share on behalf of Ms. Hicks' studio art class, where we learn about the elements of art, learn about painting, sculpture, and other design.
All seventh graders get to take this class. And you can see some of the arts we have learned in this year.
The sunflowers you see were created by myself and my friend Jocelyn Marcial after we learned to create Van Gogh-inspired paintings.
Our teacher has commissioned us to paint this sunflowers you see here. This made us feel inspired to continue to do our art.
Art is a way to express ourselves. Art is a story within ourselves. Fessler Junior High has demonstrated that we too can continue our journey in art.
Art will always be astonishing even with imperfectionists.
Now I'm going to introduce Rachel.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Casares, and at Fessler, I am an 8th grader involved in leadership, a web leader, sports teams, a representative, Fessler as a district student leader. Tonight, I would like to share my favorite thing about Fessler. One thing I love about it is the staff teachers. They're also nice and care about their students' feelings. Also, another thing is the leadership class. It is one of the best classes ever. It has such a good environment. Everyone in there is so fun and kind. I personally met most of the amazing people in leadership. And the teachers, Mr. Ross and Ms. Schaefer, are amazing. If you don't know what leadership is, it's a class where you plan events for the school and plan things for classes. We plan the dances, school competitions, spirit weeks, and fun activities for the school. We have committees for all of these things. Like right now, I'm planning Spirit Week and Wear Red Friday, homeroom competition. That's just a few things I love about my school and my leadership class. Outside of school, I'm a very big team player. I play tackle football for the city of Santa Maria, where I'm on the Ruthless Rebels for the senior division. I've been playing for 3 years so far, and I plan to play in high school. I've met some of the most funniest people ever, and besides being the only girl on my team, I am just as capable of playing and can do the same things everyone else on my team can do. This shows I have good teamwork skills, and me being in leadership shows that I know what it takes to be a leader on off campus and being a team player on off the field. Next up is Yamilet.
Good evening. My name is Yamile Escobar, and at Fessler, I am a 7th grader involved in Avid and Web. Tonight, I would like to share about my participation in Web. My favorite thing about Fessler that I would like everyone to know about is the Web leaders and how they are working to include all students at Fessler. Web can be fun and inclusive. My Web leaders inspire me to want to be a Web leader myself. Now, I'd like to give recognition to my AVID teacher, Miss Miller. Miss Miller is a great AVID teacher, and she is very patient with our AVID classes. All jokes, oh wait, no. Avid is seriously so fun and you get to practice your socializing skills. Now I'll introduce Chloe.
Good evening. My name is Chloe Coppell, and at Fester, I am a seventh grader involved in Avid and Cheer. Tonight, I would like to share about our web orientation. One thing I really love about Fester is how welcoming everyone is. All the teachers and staff are so nice and involved. When I'm having a bad day, almost all my teachers ask if I'm okay and let me talk to them. This all started with our seventh grade web orientation, where student leaders welcomed us to campus. Web orientation helped me get familiar with the campus, get advice on what to expect as a seventh grader, and how to work with 7 different teachers. Now I'm going to introduce my sister Zoe. Good evening. My name is Zoe Capel, and at Festa, I am a seventh grader involved in leadership. Tonight, I would like to share more about the web orientation. Helped me make new friends and showed me around the school and helped me learn about the staff. One thing I love about Fessler is the staff and how they are really involved with the students. I especially like how understanding they are of the seventh graders trying to get used to this big change. One of the web leaders is now my friend Ryan Rich.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Rich, and at Fessler, I am involved in leadership. I'm student council president. I'm a web leader on the cheer team. I'm also in the Battle of the Books. Tonight, I would like to share about Red Ribbon Week and Spirit Weeks. We make a positive difference. We make a positive difference on campus by planning activities in spirit focused on saying no to drugs. Activities this year will include teaming up against drugs, Jersey Day, sleeping away the drugs, PJ Day as examples. Our lunchtime activities are fun because there are ways for students to participate in different activities at our school. Webb has taught me advice on how to help our sevies. Some have become my friend. And finally, as student council president, I got to lead student council meetings where student council and homeroom reps get to decide on activities and fundraisers for clubs at Fessler. Now I would like to introduce my friend and peer, Alexander Rodriguez Mejia.
Good evening. My name is Alexander Rodriguez Mejia, and at Fessler, I am an 8th grader involved in Avid. I am a web leader and represent Fessler as a district students leader. I'm here this evening to talk about why I'm proud to be a Fessler student. First of all, I have a great connection with all my teachers because they see me as a great student with very high standards, and as a person because they understand what I go through with my emotions. Second of all, my teachers help me reach my high expectations and goals. My teachers help me academically and as a person. For example, Ms. Austin, my Avid teacher and 7th grade English teacher, has given me advice as a person and scholar student. She has also empathy for me and listens to all of my troubles and has helped me control my emotions when I'm feeling down or upset. Lastly, I'm happy to represent Fessler as a district student leader. Next up, Francisco Garcia.
Good everyone. My name is Francisco Garcia. At Fessler, I am a 7th grader involved in leadership. I like how we have more teachers in junior high and get to change classes each period. My favorite class leadership because we get to set up dances and come up with announcements to share what activities we plan to make Fessler great. Now I'd like to introduce Evelyn.
Good evening. My name is Evelyn Avalos, and I'm in 8th grade involved in Avid. I am a web leader and play soccer and volleyball. One thing I like about Fessler is that they always upgrade everything to make students feel more safe around the school. In Avid, we are getting prepared for college, and I love that. Being a web leader has help me be more involved in school and be more comfortable around kids. I get to be a leader as a manager of the girls volleyball team. These experiences help me be better and prepared for high school and college. One tip I had for others is live your life. I would like to introduce Leslie.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Cortez, and in Fessler, I am a seventh grader involved in AVID and cheer. Tonight, I would like to introduce my father, Constantino, who would like to share how Fessler has impacted our family. Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Leslie Cortez y en Fessler participo en AVID y cheer. Esta noche me gustaría presentarles a mi padre, Constantino, que compartirá cómo Fessler ha impactado a mi familia.
Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Constantino Cortés. Soy padre de 5 hijos. En la escuela Fessler se han graduado 3 de mis hijos, un varón y 3 niñas se han graduado. Todos ellos estuvieron participando en el programa ADVIT. Yo estoy muy agradecido con el programa ADVIT porque es muy buen programa. Cuando mis hijos llegaron en la escuela en la escuela Fessler, iban un poco bajo en lectura, se inscribieron, la aceptaron en el programa ADVIT y a través de ese programa fueron desarrollando y elevando su nivel de estudio. Actualmente tengo un hijo graduado ya, hizo su maestría a los 23 años. Tengo mi segunda hija, está en su último año de universidad en Sacramento. Tengo otra hija que se graduó de Fessler también, que está en la high school en su 11º grado, y la que me presentó ahorita está en el 7º grado. La escuela Fessler para mí es una muy buena escuela porque ahí han estado mis hijos. No tengo pues conocimiento de otras escuelas, pero me imagino que igual. Pero estoy agradecido con todo el personal de la escuela Fessler, los maestros, los directores y todo eso, porque todos ellos han trabajado pues con mis hijos y yo con ellos para que ellos salgan adelante. Mi sueño es de que todos mis hijos se gradúen de la universidad y gracias a la educación de este país. Ese es mi sueño. Gracias.
Good evening. My name is Constantino, the dad of 5 children. At Fessler, I have 3 that have already graduated from Fessler, a boy and 2 girls. They were all in ADVID. I am thankful to this program because my kids were low in writing, and thanks to AVID, their level has increased. Now my son has a master's degree. A daughter of mine, it's her last year in Sacramento. I have an 11th grader in high school. I have a 7th grader. And then Fessler has always been where my kids have gone to school. The staff has worked with my kids. I am thankful. And my dream is for all my kids to graduate. Thank you.
We've heard some amazing testimonies about our school and still have a few more things to share. I would like to share about World Culture Art. World Culture Art is a year-long class designed to expose students to cultures around the world. We look at the geographic, history, and specific regions. We then study a specific art form and create our own interpretations. You can see some of our work here, including masks and collages by ourselves.
Esta tarde me gustaría compartir sobre AVID. Mi clase de AVID Excel nos prepara para la universidad y ser mejores en la escuela. En mi primer año de AVID Excel, fui reasignada porque domino inglés completamente. Gracias a mi increíble maestra, la señora Austin, y por mi dedicación y esfuerzo, porque cuando uno quiere, todo se puede. También quiero agregar que en FESR nuestro espíritu es el mejor porque sentimos bienvenidos. Por el personal que es muy convencido y nos ha demostrado la gran capacidad de ayudarnos con cualquier situación que tengamos.
Ivana and I are both athletes on the FESR cheer team. Cheer is an amazing opportunity to get comfortable with one another and get out your comfort zone. The team connects us with other students and is a safe place when we have our personal problem. That's why we scream so loud. It helps us focus, be a leader, and be a part of school. It's an amazing sport.
Zenei y yo somos atletas del FESR Cheer Team. Ser una animadora es una oportunidad increíble para convivir e interactuar unos con otros y sacarnos de nuestra área de comodidad. El equipo nos conecta con otros estudiantes y es un espacio seguro cuando tenemos problemas personales. Por eso gritamos tan fuerte. Esto nos ayuda a concentrarnos, ser líderes y ser parte de la escuela. Es un deporte muy padre.
Thank you for your time this evening. Our doors are always open for you to visit us at FESR. Falcon Soar.
Don't go to the microphone, Dr. Palmerston. Do not go to the microphone. And I say that in jest, but I mean, the reason I say that is all you amazing young people just did a spectacular job. Thank you for sharing your voices with us in your different languages with us. They were all the things you told us were things that we really love to hear about Webb and love to hear about your experiences on your campus and making one another feel welcome, your interactions with your teachers, and also sharing your amazing art with us, your amazing art with us, and your experiences in the cultural art class, and your creativity. It's not easy. We say this to a lot of the students when they come and speak before us, but it's not easy to get up there to that microphone and speak to us, let alone speak to us in different languages, speak here with your parents here. You all did beautifully, and we're very composed. We really appreciate your leadership with your other friends and classmates. I hope that continues, the program that you guys are in, or programs that you are all involved in, student advisory, AVID, Webb, those things are all super important to continue to create or keep that culture on your campus of feeling welcome. Your teachers do a lot, but you guys are integral to that because you go off the campus and share your time with one another outside of school too. So I really, really appreciate all your guys' leadership, and your kind introductions for one another. That was really cool to see as well. Allie, could you come up and share some of the things that you made on the 3D printer with the board in your class? I just want them to see. She shared some of the things that she made in her class on the 3D printer beforehand. And so, just give it to Mr. Lara right there. And then I'll give him back to you as soon as, this is our way of keeping you at the meeting, by the way. No, I really enjoyed always sitting with a couple of kids before the meeting and hearing about what's going on. And she shared some of the things that she's doing in her classroom with a 3D printer and whatnot. And so lest we not know about this, that these guys are doing really heady stuff for 7th and 8th graders in their classrooms, and showing us what they're going to do in the future, and sharing their time tonight is super special to us. Okay. We'll just keep her up here, and then the rest of you guys can have it. Okay. Yeah, no, she's an old, you know what? I think she's an old soul because she can just sit there and talk with you. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. You're a great emissary. Mr. Valencia.
I wanted to just introduce myself to the students. So I'm Ricardo Valencia, and I'm looking forward to having some of you as students because I teach at Santa Maria High School. So go Fessler and go Saints. But if you become a Panther, won't be mad at you either because it's all Santa Maria love. I wanted to highlight some of the things that you brought up that I think are really, really wonderful. One of you said, getting prepared for college. I'm getting prepared for college, and I love that. And so I really appreciate the college going culture that you all are setting at your school site. We know that many of our young people are not there yet, right? Because they don't have the privilege of being involved in Avid Excel, right? Or some of those courses. So I look to you all as leaders, right? To encourage your friends to think of themselves as college material, because we know that many of our young people still doubt themselves. I also wanted to highlight the father that just spoke right now. I believe he said that one of his sons has a master's degree at the age of 23 years old, right? So we have models in our community, right? People that you can look up to, people that are already doing this, right? What you intend to do. So I want to, highly commend the father who just spoke with us from the heart, from the corazon. And the father mentioned specifically, he said, quote, "My dream is for my kids to graduate from a university." I want our young people to think about that, right? The sacrifices that our parents make, that our families make every day. Some of them work some extremely difficult jobs, right? Like in the fields or in construction, right? Or in kitchens and many other, labor demanding jobs, right? So they want a better future for you. And I'm really excited for that future that you're already creating. And, some people make the mistake of thinking that our families don't value education, but I think that's the complete opposite, right? Our families highly value education, and we know that you do too. So thank you so much. I hope that we can take a picture with these wonderful young people before they leave. Thank you very much.
I believe we still have her ring and her keychain, so she's not going anywhere. Yeah. Oh, we don't have a photographer, but I bet we have a lot of iPhones in the audience. Please bring the camera forward. All right. Can you guys join us up in front?
Did you all get a chance to see this?
Oh, no.
It's not wide in the land. All your hair. Hi, come on. Have on your good. Hey, a couple of them. All right. Oh, yeah. I'll take you back. Bring you back there. Let's get one minute.
By the way, all my kids went to Fessler. Falcon Soar. All right, meeting adjourned. No, I'm sorry, just kidding. I mean, why? Item 8, public comment, open session. Public comments are intended for members of the public to address the Board of Education on items involving the school district. Such testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes each, or 450 words per person or subject, 15 minutes total for each topic. If an answer to a specific question is requested, the board president will, if appropriate, direct administration to respond in writing. And I would ask again for anybody who's speaking to take into consideration interpretation. And then also, I know I saw Mr. Valencia in the last meeting doing a really nice job of trying to let people know their time was getting close. It oftentimes will appear over there too. If you see that that time is coming down to 3 minutes, please try to wrap up your comments accordingly. Do we have anything, Dr. McDuffie?
Yes, we do. Brenda Rojas.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, everybody. I'm here today to talk about what my daughter has been going through in TK these past few weeks. I will be sharing snippets of emails that I have been sending the assistant principal. On September 5th, my email reads as follows. I am reaching out because I have some concerns with my daughter. She is currently being hurt and touched by a little boy in her class. She came home on Monday with scratches on her chest. Previously, she had mentioned that he has hit her on her chin. He has also hit her on her back and left her a bruise. He's also constantly touching her hair, touching her shoulders, just constantly touching her. That is a big concern to me, as I have always told my children that it is not okay to touch other people's bodies without their consents. I've spoken to her teacher numerous times and she has done what she can, but it seems that it needs to go beyond her teacher. I understand that kids will do that. They will hurt each other accidentally. They will end up with scratches or even bruises accidentally. But for my daughter to come home almost daily to tell me this little boy is constantly touching and hurting her, the teacher and other students, is definitely not okay. Please let me know how this issue can be resolved moving forward. On October 2nd, it reads as follows. I am reaching out once again for the same reason. My daughter just told me the same little boy was bothering her during school. She said she was crying because he pinched her arms, armpits, and bottom. That is unacceptable in every which way. It makes me sick to my stomach. I would like to know what the school is doing to prevent that behavior and how I can escalate this further. Him touching her bottom is crossing many lines. The student seems to be more than one teacher can handle. I understand he is only in TK, but touching my daughter in her private area is beyond infuriating to me as a parent and should be to you too as the assistant principal of the school. On October 4th, it reads as follows. Good afternoon. I am reaching out once more for the same reason. My daughter just mentioned to me that the same student was slapping her bottom while they were on their way to lunch. She said, he likes to hit us on our bottom. So I am assuming she is not the only student he is doing that to. What is currently being done to prevent it? When we spoke, you mentioned something is being done and you guys are trying, but she's still coming to me telling me this like it is normal behavior, and it is not. It is definitely not okay for one student to touch another in that area. I mentioned to her that she needs to walk away when she sees him approaching her, but she considers him her friend and does not. Possibly he needs a one-on-one aide that can redirect him when he is acting out. I'm not sure, but I do need him to stop touching her inappropriately. On October 9th, my daughter came home to tell me that the same little boy was hitting her bottom and a teacher saw and asked him to stop. On October 10th, my daughter complained about him pinching her between her hip and her bottom. Today, she told me that he pinched her hip and smacked her bottom. I was going to send more emails, but I decided to come here instead. I have spoke to the assistant principal and he said they are working on getting him diagnosed and getting him the proper help. However, I do not understand why my daughter's boundaries are not being taken more seriously because they are only 4. It is excusable. At this age, they are the most impressionable. If it does not stop now, when will it? Another issue is, why are the parents not being held accountable? If I was getting daily calls that my child is hurting other students and staff, I'd be at that school daily monitoring him, asking him for IEP meetings, asking for a behavioral aid, asking for any and all help. If my daughter needed more, as their parent, as their advocate, I would do more. It's so simple. I would expect nothing less from a parent who has a child that is touching another student inappropriately and constantly hurting other students and staff. I am asking to have this issue addressed with the boy's parents and to give him the proper help he needs, as this is unacceptable behavior for any kid, regardless of age. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Monty Nash. And you have two here. I would imagine they're the same.
Thank you. Putting the timer on myself. Okay. Guys, first off, thank you very much for your time. My name is Monte L. Nash. I've been a member of the community since 2007. I've been a personal trainer in the fitness industry since 1991. I've developed a product called the Speed Sack, which is sold worldwide right now. And I've developed a program surrounding the product that involves youth fitness, moving your body through space with resistance. My program is called I'm Fast. It stands for In Motion Functional Athletic Strength Training. My website is imfast.co. imfast.co. Part of this strength and conditioning program involves the usage of heart rate monitors. I think it's very important now that you guys are introducing athletics to your district, that you have a kind of precursor or strength and conditioning component so that the people participating in the sports have a good experience and that they are aware of where their heart rate is when they're playing. We've had a number of people have cardiac arrest now playing sports. And a lot of times, based on having the pandemic behind us, you had a situation where people were developing physically without the circulatory and respiratory system accommodating that. My program addresses that. It enhances their physical ability. It enhances their strength, of course, enables them to perform at a higher level for a longer period of time and keeps them safe as they enter into playing athletics. So my thing is like, how can we get this and integrate this in? I have a system to where I can train your teachers and certify them. I have a written test and a fill in the blank test for that. I'd also like to mention that in 2013, this program was introduced to you guys, to the school district by the Boys and Girls Club. The funding didn't happen, and I did the program myself at Fairview. Is it Fairview? Fairlawn and at Sanchez. 2 days apiece at both those schools for the fifth grade classes, for the whole fifth grade class. And I was able to have remarkable progress from them participating in it for 6 months. And I did that for free. And if anyone would like to review what happened, I can send you that email and that link about how it benefited those kids. I've currently been working with the Boys and Girls Club when the pandemic happened out in Guadalupe, and my time is up. So in closing, I just appreciate your time and would like to know exactly how I could further this conversation where we have a little bit more time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's yes. Corey Costanta.
Hello, my name's Corey Costanza, and I'm here representing Santa Maria Wrestling. I believe that Coach Silva has either emailed or somehow sent out a plan that he has come up with, a 3-year plan to introduce wrestling as a sport to the junior high in Santa Maria Bonita. I just want to highlight a couple of those things in the plan to give you something to consider when you look at that plan. One is junior high wrestling can be used as an intervention. As you know, a lot of the problems with junior high kids come the first couple hours after school when they get in a lot of trouble in the community. And that is when sports programs usually are having their practices. Another thing is wrestling seems to attract kids that otherwise are not drawn to the mainstream sports. You don't have to be the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest to compete. It has weight classes, which brings me to my next point. Wrestling is for boys and girls. The fastest growing sport in America right now is girls and women's wrestling. In fact, 2 of the top girls wrestling teams in California are right here in Santa Maria High School and Pioneer Valley. The last thing I want to bring up to you is there's a lot of local schools doing it too. Lucia Mar's doing it at the junior high level, San Luis Coastal, Atascadero, Paso Robles, and Rigetti High School has started a program in Guadalupe at the junior high level. So in fact, most school districts throughout California and the US have wrestling in middle school. So I know that that's something that you will be looking into. So on behalf of all the wrestlers, coaches, and wrestling family in Santa Maria, please take a serious look at that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's all we have.
All right. And there actually was a Fessler Falcon that was a state champion from Pioneer Valley. We'll move on to item 9, approval of the agenda as presented. We have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
One second, I'd like to make a pull from the agenda.
Okay.
Item 11B, I believe, discussion item. 12B.
12B.
Yes.
Pull. Okay. All right. So we have a motion for the agenda as amended.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
And I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Valencia and seconded by Mrs. Corral, that the agenda be approved as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lara.
Aye.
Ms. Cabral.
Aye.
Mrs. Cordero.
Aye.
Mr. Valencia.
Aye.
Mr. Hollinshead.
Aye. Sorry, Ms. Corral, I stumbled and said Mrs. Corral. Oh, yeah, yeah. And he's got the same last name. You know, that's the same last name. We'll move on to item 10, consent. I have a motion to approve the consent items as presented.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
And I'll go ahead and second that also.
Been moved by Ms. Cordero, seconded by Ms. Corral, that the board approve consent agenda as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lara.
Aye.
Ms. Cabral.
Aye.
Mrs. Cordero.
Aye.
Mr. Valencia.
Aye.
Mr. Hollinshead.
Yep. We'll move on to item 11, action items. There being no action items, we'll then continue moving onward towards item 12A, release of 2023 CASP and LPAC data. Bring it. Looks like Miss Long Chong Fu and who is that? I can't see it on my glasses. Oh, just kidding, Lori.
All right. I have to take my glasses off, so I can't see you guys from here. So my apologies. If I can't see faces and expression, good evening. Thank you for having us. So tonight, I have Lori Grock here, Director of Teaching and Learning of Supplemental Programs. She will be sharing data from the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, known as the CASP, and Summative English Language Proficiency Assessment for California, known as the LPAC, test administered from the spring of 2023. CASP is a state testing system that includes Smarter Balance summative assessments in ELA and mathematics, California Science Test, California Spanish Assessments, and California Alternative Assessments for ELA, mathematics, and science. The data shared will include analysis of growth and achievement of our students, as well as disaggregated of data for special student groups, when available, trend analysis for the district. The summative LPAC measures how well students, our English learner students are progressing with English language development in 4 domains. The LPAC is aligned with a 2012 California English Language Development Standards and assessment for domains of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The purpose of the summative LPAC is to measure a student's progress towards English proficiency and to help determine if the student is ready for reclassification. And this data that we will be sharing will include analysis of growth and achievement of our students, as well as disaggregation of data for special student groups, including our multilingual learner students, and when available, trend analysis for the district. So I'm going to hand this over to Lori Gregg to share the data.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening to present your state assessment data. This was kidding about that. Okay, so as Ms. Lo Changvu said, we will be presenting both the CASP data and the LPAC data. We'll begin with the CASP SBAC data, which was the test administered in the spring of 2023. So as she said, the CASP is the performance assessment data on all Smarter Balanced assessments. It is the once a year progress indicator. Of course, we have other multiple measures, but this is the statewide assessment, and it will be reported on the California dashboard when the data is released in December. The SBAC assessments are given to measure progress, to understand a student's readiness for success in higher grades, their college and career readiness, and using the data for the California dashboard. All students in grades 3 through 8, and also at our feeder school, Santa Maria Joint Union High School District, they take it again in the 11th grade. And the SBAC assessments are given through computer adaptive online testing in April and May of 2023. So I think you've all heard this from me before, but we're going to review it one more time. When we look at the levels of data that we have available, what we frequently find is that when we look at a once a year measure, there's a disconnect, because if there's a gap in student learning or student readiness, it's really hard to look at the end of year data and see the students who didn't meet the proficiency level, but they're making progress toward that goal. So we've adopted a stance in this district that we will look at this data in 3 ways. We're going to start with, did our students move forward? Did they have growth? So whether our student is in front of us for 1 day, 1 month, or 1 year, they should be further along than they were the day they got to us. So we start by saying, where were you the last time you took this test? And are you further along this year? That's growth. We want that for everyone. Then we say, are you on pace? Are you learning at an appropriate rate? And if there is an achievement gap, are we closing that achievement gap? So that is our adequate growth that we look at. And then we look at, are you ready? Did you meet the proficiency level? Did you meet the standard that we as a state or we as a district have set for you? So we're going to talk tonight about growth, adequate growth, and achievement. So our students in SMBSD who took the test, the SBAC test in the spring of 2023, we had a lot of students enrolled and lots of students taking the exams. The ESSA requirement rate for the SBAC testing is 95% for each school, each grade level, and each student population. And I'm pleased to report that we met the 95% ESSA required completion rate for all of our assessments this year. So let's talk about growth. When a student sits in front of us, we want them to be further along than they were the year before. So when we talk about growth, we are only actually looking at 4th through 8th grade because the 3rd graders last year took it for the first time. So you can't measure growth if you don't have a baseline. So our growth and our adequate growth numbers are smaller, but that's what we're looking for. Growth equals a student who moved 1 or more points on the overall scale score. In ELA, 5,353 or 63.48% of our students had growth. In 2022, that rate was 83.84%. In math, 61.86% of our students had growth compared to 65.4% last year. And in science, we weren't able to measure growth because the students in 8th grade who would have had growth from the 5th grade test, since science is only administered in 5th and 8th grade, they were in COVID, so they didn't have a baseline score in 5th grade, so there's no way to assess growth for them. Then we talk about adequate growth. On the CASP testing or the SBAC testing, adequate growth is defined as a student who moves 1 achievement level or maintains proficiency. So if I'm a student and I was an overall 2 last time, then I should have moved to an overall 3 in my 1 year of instruction since the last time I took the test. If I was a 3, I could stay a 3 because that's proficient, or I could have even moved to a 4. If I was a 1, moving to a 2. So for adequate growth for our students in ELA, we had 34.34% who had adequate growth. In math, 23.46% had adequate growth. And in science, again, we weren't able to measure adequate growth. And then achievement, the gold standard, the finish line in our marathon that we're training for. For achievement in SBAC, it is a student score of an overall level 3 or 4. 3 is met standard and 4 is exceeded standard. So we want all of our students to get to a 3 or even possibly a 4. And so for us in ELA, and again, we could measure all of our students 3rd through 8th grade for achievement because this isn't a baseline. So 24% of all of our 3rd through 8th grade students achieved proficiency in ELA. 15.95% achieved proficiency in math. And in science, 13.09% achieved proficiency. This is the ELA performance analysis by grade level with 3rd grade at the bottom and 8th grade at the top. Again, those 4 levels. So a level 1 overall, which is that kind of orangish red bar. An overall 2 or standard nearly met is yellow. A standard met is green and a standard exceeded is blue. And so you can see by grade, the percentage of students who fell into each of those levels. And then, of course, because we're aiming for them to be 3 or 4, we've gone ahead and done the math for you and shown you the total percentage of students at or above proficiency at each grade band. And that's for ELA. And this is for math. Again, starting with 3rd grade at the bottom, 8th grade at the top. And there's our aggregate total of students proficient or exceeding proficiency. And here is science in 5th grade at the bottom and 8th grade at the top. And then we wanted to provide you with a trend analysis over time. So we went back to 2016, 17 and up to the present. The white gap in the middle is the COVID years when we did not administer state testing. 1 year because of emergency closures and the next year because we were offered alternate assessment choices and we chose to use the local NWEA map growth. So that's why there's a white spot in the middle. And then there is the percentage at or above for each of those years. For math, the same chart applies. And for science. So then we wanted to look specifically at student populations or special student groups. So I've provided for you that same concept of growth, adequate growth, and then we'll talk about achievement in just a moment. But for each of these programs or tags or student identification that you can see here, so our students in dual immersion, our English language learner students. So those would be current EL students who have not been redesignated as fluent English proficient at the time of testing. Our students who are in foster care, our free and reduced price lunches, which is a socioeconomic indicator, our gifted and talented education students, students experiencing homelessness, students identified as migrant, our mixed tech speakers, and our students with disabilities, which is all of our students with active IEPs who did not qualify for the alternate assessments. So remember, there's a whole nother level of testing for students with the most severe cognitive disabilities. They take the alternate assessments. They are not included in this data, but all other students, even if they have an IEP, they do take the SBAC and they are identified as this student group of students with disabilities. So for growth and adequate growth, those are our number of students who met that criteria and then the percentage of that group. So remember that students can be they can be identified in more than one group at a time. So I could be a student and my score could count as both, if I'm in a dual immersion program and I'm an EL and I'm a migrant student, we would count them in all three of those groups. They're not mutually exclusive and they don't total the whole because all of SMBSD, not every student is an unduplicated student into the whole. So each of these rows is just that student population and then the percentage of that student population who achieved growth and adequate growth, and there's your achievement levels for those students as well. And this is all for ELA. So then we did the same thing for math, our student groups, our growth, and our adequate growth. And achievement in math. And then science, again, we could not count growth or adequate growth. And here are our achievement scores for those specially identified student groups or program participants. Okay, that was a lot to take in. That was all of our SBAC data. So ELA, math, and science. We're going to move now to the LPAC assessment. The English Language Proficiency Assessment for California, also administered in the spring of 2023. So again, this is the assessment system used to determine the English language proficiency of students whose primary language is not English. It is given to measure progress, to inform placement, to determine readiness for reclassification, and to ensure that students have supports as needed. Any English language learner from grade transitional kindergarten to 12th grade takes the LPAC once a year, unless and until they are redesignated as fluent English proficient, and then they stop taking the LPAC. The LPAC is a computer-based and also includes one-on-one domains with a real live examiner scoring your responses to them. And it's given in bands. So there's a band for kinder, for first, for second, and then third through fifth, and sixth through eighth. And it is given from February 1st to May 31st of every year. So this is the data from February to May of 2023. So how many of our students took this test? We've given for you the number of EL students enrolled and then the number of EL students who tested with the LPAC. So those are the students who tested the LPAC. And then we also went back and pulled in the students who took the alternate LPAC. So again, our students with the most severe cognitive disabilities qualify for alternative assessments, but they are still counted in our completion rates. The federal required completion rate for the LPAC is 100%. So the federal government says you must test every single EL student without exception. And we got close. So we were missing one student in second grade, one student in third through fifth grade, and one student in sixth through eighth grade. So our overall completion rate was 99.89%. There were 3 students that were not able to complete the testing. 2 of those students were not able to be tested because they were chronically absent. And 1 student, the 3rd student, tested in the first 2 domains and moved in the middle of the testing window. They moved out of state. I believe they went to North Carolina. And so we were not able to complete the testing for the other 2 domains for that. The good news is that this year on the dashboard, the state of California has, they just announced this week at the California Assessment Conference that as long as your completion rate is above 95%, they will not drop your color on the dashboard. So it used to be if you didn't get 100%, you were automatically orange. Like it did not matter how your students did on the test if you didn't test every one of them. And so this year they have said, due to the trend of chronic absenteeism and the inability of LEAs to test every student, that they will give grace on the color as long as you're above 95%, and we are well above 95%. So that is good news for us. So going back to that concept of growth, adequate growth and achievement, on the LPAC, the growth is defined as a student who moves 1 or more points since the last LPAC summative score. So I've provided for you the scale score ranges there that students can score on. And this year, 88.96% of our multilingual learners had growth, which is a slight increase from last year. Adequate growth is a little bit different for the LPAC. So there are 4 levels in LPAC, overall level 1, 2, 3, or 4. But there are actually 4 LPs, English language proficiency indicators. So you could score a 2 overall, but it could be a 2 low or a 2 high. And the state says, given what we know about how multilingual learners progress and learn a second language, it is appropriate and adequate for a student to move from one LP to the next LP, even if they don't move from one overall level to the next overall level. So if a student had a 2 last year and still has a 2 this year, they could still qualify as or be considered for adequate growth if they moved from a 2 low to a 2 high. And so that's how we measure that. And this year, 51.37% of our multilingual learners had adequate growth on the LPAC. And then the gold standard, the finish line in the marathon in the LPAC is a level 4. You may remember I just said for SBAC, it was a level 3 or 4 because level 3 is meeting standards and level 4 on the SBAC is exceeding standards. But for the LPAC, a student has to score a level 4 overall in order to qualify for consideration for redesignation as fluent English proficient. So getting a level 3 is not considered the achievement or the finish line in LPAC. It has to be a level 4. That changed a few years ago in the state of California. And that's not a decision that we make. That is a decision that the state makes, that you cannot redesignate an EL student or RFEP them if they do not get an LPAC 4. So we consider achievement a 4. And this year, 12.82% of our students achieved proficiency, which is a pretty significant increase from last year's rate of 9.79%. I do want to remind you that once the student gets a level 4, they are redesignated as fluent English proficient and they never take the LPAC again. And so it's a constantly moving target with very low percentages of students meeting an LPAC 4, because as soon as they get the 4, then they don't test again. So it's not like the SBAC where we want to keep seeing the level 3s and 4s go up and up and up and increase our percentage total proficient. It is pretty reasonable to consider 10% in any given year to meet a level 4. That's very good progress for multilingual learners in the state of California. This is the performance analysis by grade level. Same as before, you have the level 1s, which are called minimally developed English language skills. The level 2s are yellow. Those are somewhat developed. The level 3s are green or moderately developed English language skills. And then the blue is well developed. And that goes from transitional kinder students at the bottom to 8th grade at the top. And then this is the trend analysis by overall level over time. We never stopped taking the LPAC, even in COVID closure. However, during the closure, so 1920, we closed right in the middle of the window. So we had a significantly smaller number of students who completed that assessment before we emergency closed in March. But we got them done. So that is a complete graph over time. And then here are those student groups once again, and we've added a couple of student groups for you on this one, considering that this is specific to multilingual learners. So we have the LTEL, or long-term English language learner. That is a state designation, and those are students who have been in US schools for 6 or more years. And if they had the same or lower LPAC score last year to this year, they are considered long-term English learners. So this would be mostly 8th and 7th graders, some 6th graders as well. And then AR-LTEL is another state designation, which stands for at risk of becoming a long-term English language learner. So those are students who have been in school for 4 to 5 years, and their previous LPAC was a 3 or less. And then, of course, those same program tags: dual immersion, students in foster care, free and reduced price lunch students, which is a socioeconomic tag, gifted and talented education, students experiencing homelessness, students who are identified as migrant, and our mixed tech speakers. And that is your growth and adequate growth, and then your achievement. And the same thing applies here. The growth and adequate growth numbers are lower because you have to have a baseline. So those transitional kindergartners, this is the first year for them, so they don't get counted for growth or adequate growth, but we do still include them in achievement. Okay, so we've got data. I just gave you a lot of data. That is a whole lot of data. And based on my experience with this board and these types of presentations, I very much know that the next question that you want answered is, okay, now what, right? What are we doing about it? And so I worked with the entire educational services team to kind of identify some of the major actions and services that we are taking in service specifically to these levels of achievement, to these pieces of data for both overall as a system and also for our student population. So I'm going to review some of those now. So a lot of this aligns with the work of the LCAP. It also aligns with the work that we're currently undergoing for strategics and the strategic plan. And so this will be a very different presentation next year when we have a whole different plan of how we are addressing whole child and highly qualified staff and all of those things. But for now, I think LCAP is a good place to start. And then we've added in some other initiatives and funding streams as well. So for each of our goals, I've identified for you how the outcome measures affect it. And a lot of these you'll see are CASP. The CASP is the outcome measure to tell us whether we're doing a good job or not. I am not going to read you all of the actions and services, but I'm happy to provide these to you. And I know you're all going to spend some time looking at this slide deck for a while to come. I do want to point out our newest initiative under Goal 1 is the response to intervention teachers at all sites. We currently have them at elementary schools and at one junior high. And the RTI teachers are looking to develop a critical literacy course for next year that will be taught by RTI teachers, all in service to that ELA goal and the initiative of reading by 3rd grade, which is so critically important. Goal 2 is building systems and quality leaders and educators. And again, we're looking at all of our assessment data, making sure that we have valid assessment data and that we're using that assessment data to guide instruction and to guide school plans. Some of the new things that we have added this year is the aligned assessment, the aligned assessment system math diagnostic for K-5, which comes with the new math adoption for iReady. And then our teacher and leadership pipeline last year was year 1 for the credential program, and Ed Specialist credential was added this year. And something we're quite proud of is the year one of the residency program. I wanted to call out that all of our people in the residency program are former students who are biliterate and have firsthand knowledge of the multilingual student experience. So we think that's really critical for all students and especially for performance on the LPAC. Goal 3 is to prepare students for college and career readiness, going right back to that outcome measure of our ELA and math achievement. Can't be ready for college if you're not proficient. So that's really important for us. Added this year is the TK to 8 school counselors who are teaching tier 1 lessons in academics, socioeconomic development, not socioeconomic development, I'm sorry, social emotional development and college and career readiness. And then also the AVID training for all non-math junior high teachers, which is new this year. Goal 4 is to support our English learner academic proficiency. So this feeds directly to the LPAC, but also to the CASP testing as well, because multilingual students who are proficient on LPAC, we want them to also be proficient on the SBAC, ELA, math, and science. So some of our new initiatives, side-by-side learning for teachers and BIAs, very robust this year. 3 newcomer pilot programs are in process now at Sanchez, at Battles, and at Libben. We are updating the ELD pathways for junior highs. And of course, the dual language immersion action team is working on their master plan. So lots of actions and services to support English learner academic proficiency. Goal 5 is safe, healthy, and positive learning environments. And not specific to academics, these outcome measures are more surveys, suspension rates, and chronic absenteeism rates. But again, we know that students become disconnected when they are not successful in school academically. And so those things go up. Suspension rates go up and chronic absenteeism rates go up when they are not feeling successful in the classroom. So this feeds right back to our ELA, math, and science proficiency as well. Some of our new actions, all of our junior highs now have a WEB program. You heard a little bit about WEB tonight from Fessler. WEB stands for Where Everyone Belongs. And it is an orientation and networking opportunity for incoming 7th graders at each of the junior highs. And then also new this year are calming corners with social emotional learning training, which are optional but new at sites this year to provide for emotional regulation so that students can calm themselves and return to the academic lesson happening in the classroom so that they don't lose instructional time. Goal number 6 has specifically to do with parent education, engagement, and outreach. We know that parents are our partners on this journey. Mr. Valencia mentioned earlier that parents really value education and a college-going mentality, and we believe that as well. So all of the actions and services that we provide in terms of parent education, engagement, and outreach, we believe will come back to us or flow back to us in terms of students who are more academically prepared. And then goal 7 is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so those are some of the actions. Again, students who feel disconnected are not going to feel successful. And so the more that we can tap into diversity, equity, and inclusion, making sure that all students feel valued and heard, makes for a more academically robust environment as well. So I had the great pleasure of having a kind of a long conversation with the State Superintendent of Education, Tony Thurmond, this week at the California Assessment Conference. And he was also speaking about state test scores and the release of the dashboard. And I said to him that it's just not where we want it to be. Like it's kind of disheartening. And he said, I want you to go back and I want you to tell your board this. And I wrote it down for you. So Tony Thurmond says, it's going to take time. And we know that the scores are not where we want them to be, but we are putting innovative investments in place to support learning at historic levels. And we look forward to measuring those initiatives as we go. And I agree with that. When you look at all of the transformative investments that the state of California has made, including universal preschool, or in our district, universal transitional kindergarten, community schools, professional development, anti-racism training, mental health programs, expanded learning programs, and universal meals. All of those things are going to contribute to student success in our district, and we are investing at historic levels in search of the thing on the right, which is we want to establish one system of connected resources and supports that lead to positive conditions for learning, positive student outcomes, and high student engagement. And so that is where I leave you tonight. And it's been a pleasure to present the SBAC and LPAC data to the board.
Any questions, discussion?
For some of the categories that you indicated for us around growth and adequate growth, are those state categories or those categories that our district created to measure progress or lack thereof?
So those are not state reported levels in terms of the dashboard. The dashboard only reports achievement in terms of status and change. However, many districts and LEAs in the state of California have moved to that multiple level of disaggregation so that we can see trends over time before we get to the finish line of achievement.
And do we have how do our kids compare to comparable districts, and how do our young people fare when it comes to statewide?
So the data has been released for public consumption to be presented to school boards at a local level. However, the comparable districts, county and state, are currently embargoed and will not be released until October 18th. When those are released, I plan to prepare a board memo to provide you with comparable districts, local districts, the county and the state rates, but I'm not able to discuss those at this time as they are currently embargoed.
You said until October the 18th?
October 18th is the release, and it'll take me a few days to pull it all together. But yes, that's when it's going to be released to the public.
Next question is, many of our families have come to the school board meetings recently, particularly with concerns, right, about how are we meeting the needs of I appreciate the terminology, which is our emerging, what is the term that was used instead of EL?
Multilingual.
Yeah, our emerging multilingual students, right? Their concerns around the reclassification process. And so what would you tell parents who have that concern that currently the needs of their children are not being met? What would you, how would you alleviate some of those concerns?
Thank you for the question. I know Dr. McDuffie and I will be at the DLAC meeting on Wednesday to have conversations with our parents and very real questions and concerns from our families around that. And I want to acknowledge that, being new to Santa Maria Bonita, recognizing that the majority of our students are EL students. And I believe, if I recall correctly, 12% of our students this year qualify for redesignation. I think based on what we've shared tonight on some of our what are we doing in response to student learning in Santa Maria Bonita, I think the first thing we need to do is acknowledge where we are. And as I am new in this role and working with Ed Services and the directors, one of the things I've said to them is we just need to acknowledge and accept this is where we are, but we cannot settle. We cannot settle. And that what I would like to message to our families, our EL families, is that we know we have to do better. And we have invested, as a state is investing in these resources. Over the years, Santa Maria Bonita have also invested in curriculum to bring us into alignment. As I am out meeting with our teachers, our administrators, talking to district level folks to better understand where we are and assess for where we are in Santa Maria Bonita, there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for us to align our work so that we are very intentional on how we are servicing all of our students. And I will call out our EL students because that is the majority of our students. So I would like to assure our our families that we are taking this seriously. We are looking at what we are currently doing, what's working, and where are those opportunities for improvement, opportunities for us to do things differently. And so as we assess and as we identify where those areas are, my hope is that I will be able to continue to share that information with our DLAC families and be able to provide updates to the board as well.
I really appreciate the comment about that we cannot settle, right? I don't know about my board colleagues, but as I was seeing the numbers, like it was like speechless, because we see the wonderful young people that just presented to us, and there's a major disconnect, right? That data that we're getting, if that's the norm for our young people, then the young people that presented to us are not going to be the norm. That's going to be the exception to the rule. And that's not, what our families were or what I want. And I would assume that any of my board colleagues want. And so as a board member, I own this data myself also, right? So this is also a reflection of my leadership. And so my hope is that no staff member feels like personally attacked with this data, but that we all own it together so that we could figure out, those next steps and do it, in a way that honors our students and our families.
Thank you for those comments. And I just wanted to mention myself, my mentor, one of my superintendents, used to always tell me when the test scores go up, you shouldn't get too excited. And when they go down, you shouldn't get too excited. What this reminds me of it, because I'll tell you, just looking at the test scores before I got here, looking at the test scores now, there's a little dip in regards to having the pandemic, but there's not much change over the years. And I've said this to many groups about the fact that how can we expect a system that created the achievement gap be the same system to close it? And we need to begin looking at fresh systems to be able to work with our students. I like, Ms. Grock, that you brought the Transforming Schools a piece here for us to see, just to see some differences. But I just want to say that I have had some conversations with Ms. Lo Chung Vu in regards to our English learners and how we really begin looking at our system. I think sometimes of the Matrix. I don't know if there are any Matrix fans here, but Neo is in a world where everything seems to be just okay. He's living in the Matrix, but doesn't realize it. And so once he realizes it, he fights against the Matrix. And I'm going to stop there because I get too excited when I start talking about it. But
you want us to see code is what you're saying.
Exactly. Because we need to change the system that we're in. Quite frankly, I'm excited to begin talking about community schools, to bring in our community and talk about our strategic plan and looking at a whole child approach and seeing what comes out of the systems that we create based upon our mission. So I'm excited about that and about the things that are that we're moving toward. So,
and I appreciate that, Dr. McDuffie. I think the notion that we want to move in a direction that's going to be reflective of innovation and looking at ways to really not just get our kids engaged, but be engaged on our part with them. So I think, I think that kind of goes both ways. As far as, that community model with really kind of fostering a larger culture of learning amongst everybody who's on a campus. And in that light, Ms. Grok, one of the things I've asked you before is about disaggregating data according either to sites or to clusters and things of that nature to see if there are people, if there are groups outside of the designated student groups, if there are schools or what have you that are doing things that seem to be reflective of making that difference. Have you done that yet or not?
We have, yes. So the executive summary of both of the SBAC is done and published, and sites have access to that. So they get the same data, the same student groups for each site so that they can look and find hotspots and make comparisons and reach out to partners. The LPAC executive summary is almost done and it should be out to sites by the end of the week. So yes, they have access to that, and we'll make sure that we include those links in the board packet as well so that you all can see them. But we have disaggregated the data at the site level in exactly the same way for all of the student groups and for growth, adequate growth, and achievement on each of the assessments.
But there's not an active, it's not an active process on your part to say, hey, they're doing something's going on over at Ontiveros that's really turning the corner, or there's a lot of numbers there that are not inconsequential or random.
It actually is. It's on my list of things to do.
No, I'm just curious.
But yes, my plan is to look at those and find those hotspots and then report to Ms. Lo Chung Vu and have her carry that forward to leaders to have discussions around what's working and what's different for those sites that have those hotspots or higher rates of success.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Cordero, you had a question?
Well, a couple of comments.
Comment?
That process in the past has been done with the LCAP group, where they look at the clusters and compare across the board and within the clusters. So that's not a new practice. Right?
Yes, you're correct. That has been done at LCAPs in the past. Yes.
Yes. And my other request would be if a link to the presentation tonight could be included in our Friday update, because you went really fast.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get that into the update.
I couldn't write down what I wanted too fast enough.
I'm sorry.
So I just want to review it in a more reflective way.
Absolutely. So I will include the slide deck. I will also include the executive summary and the school level disaggregation file so that you can dig away in the data to your heart's content.
Valencia?
That won't be overwhelming at all.
A follow-up question is, have you all discussed targets, like where we want to be in the next year, 2 years, 3 years? If only X percentage of our students are at achievement, what is our target? And do our staff know what those targets are? Where are we at with that?
Do you want to take that one, Dr. McDuffie?
I don't believe we looked at that at this point, just with the scores just coming out, but that's certainly something that we'll have to look at and talk about, and I'll talk with Ms. Lo Chung Vu about that.
I think some of that might also be included in school plans still.
I was just going to add that both in the single plans for student achievement at the school level and in the LCAP plan, which Dr. Humphreys is currently writing for the next 3 years, there will be those indicators and goals as well. So this data will become our baseline data for the next 3-year plan, and the LCAP will include targets for growth across the 3 years.
And I just want to add, I just want us, all of us, to be careful not to set our limits on the test scores as we don't look beyond that. And not to say that those are indicators of growth, But if we don't set a foundation for us in regards to the programs that we have currently in place, it'll be continue to repeat. So I just want to say that in regards to creating any type of goals for the test, that can't be, it has to be some different things that we do in order to drive that.
Thank you, Dr. McDuffie, for saying that. I think we know from a couple of meetings ago, we did have one parent who was expressing their concern about their child not being redesignated after really having the LPAC being the only indicator that was they were not at that point after years of being in our system, that same system. So, I think that's really important. And I think these are summative tests, and it's a test and it's one day. And so there are those parts of it too. And I would be remiss if I didn't give Dr. Palmerston credit for a few years ago, 2 years ago, I believe it was, when talking about testing, saying, if we're doing our due diligence, if we're teaching and doing the things we need to do in the classroom and on the campus with fidelity, then the tests will take care of themselves. So I think I think that also speaks to that notion that if we adapt and create a system that holds all these kids up, then this hopefully will become kind of an afterthought and a kind of just something we go through each year. So thank you for that, Dr. McDuffie. One more time, Mr. Valencia.
Yeah, I definitely echo those sentiments, right? Tests, we know that also tests, are also plagued with bias, and that they're just one indicator of success. And we don't want our young people fixated on just grades, right? And we ourselves don't want to just fixate on that, because we want to support the whole child, and their artistic talents. And then we also know that, unfortunately, for acceptance into colleges, for example, some still require, right, some of these outdated ACTs and SATs, although many are finally catching up with the program and no longer requiring them. So it's sort of like we have to kind of, it's this and that, right? We have to make sure that our students are prepared, that they know how to be successful with these facts of life, of these tests, whether we like them or not. I don't know too many educators that are jovial and excited about, these particular tests, because they suck up so much energy. So I do not. And as a teacher, I can attest to how it can demoralize our young people. And so my whole point with the question is more along the like what is our goal, right? Like, what are the outcomes that we want to see? Otherwise, if we don't have a target or an aim, it's kind of like, well, how do we measure our success, right? And so that's more the spirit behind the question. And then I also really want to come back to what Dr. McDuffie was mentioning around the systems that we currently have, right? And how they're not meeting the needs of our young people. And also you alluded to, Dr. McDuffie, of the achievement gap, right? Versus kind of the opportunity gap. I think that's so essential, right? That language that we use, because when we talk about the achievement gap, we put the onus on our young people, right? Like they're the problem, and they are clearly not the problem, right? Versus the opportunity gap says, hey, our young people do not have currently the systems in place to support them. So what are we going to do to help support them? And so I think that language is really, really important. It's the difference between seeing our young people as at promise versus at risk. Big difference between those two in terms of the deficit lens that we use with at risk versus at promise. Thank you.
I'll acknowledge receipt of this discussion item. Thank you. Very, very much.
Thank you very much.
So we'll move on to item 13, new business. And I see no new business. I'll move on to item 14, board and superintendent reports. Mr. Lara, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I got just a few. I went to the Heritage Celebration at Tunnel School on the 28th, and I took my grandsons, and it was a packed house. It was really nice. It was overwhelming to see that many parents come out with their children, but it was a good time. Only lasted 45 minutes because there were two little ones and they wanted tacos and they needed to go. So I didn't get to see the dancers, but they had a lot of fun activities for the kids. And my grandsons made some mariachi hand puppets and took pictures, and that was a good time. And I stopped by Adams School the other day to look at the playground. And it's really nice. And it's just surprised to see the kids out there playing and having a good time. And then lastly but least, I watched Sunday Morning. And there was a segment this Sunday that, was really touching. And it was called Students Making Friends Across the American Divide. So you get a chance, you want to see it, or it was really heartfelt to see these kids getting to know other kids across our nation. And like I said, if you get a chance, it's on YouTube, but I was watching it this Sunday. I record all the time, but it was really good. That's all I've got.
I've attended a few of the Hispanic Heritage celebrations. So I did go to the one sponsored by our Santa Maria Bonita and Santa Maria Joint Union at the Fair Park on the 30th. They had a lot of arts and crafts and the folklorico dancers from both Rigetti and Santa Maria. And there was a lot of resources for our families. I saw Dr. Tammy Castillo Schiffer and the community engagement team out there handing out books and snacks to the families. I took my parents and they had a good time just watching the folklorico dancers. And also this last weekend at the Open Streets event, again, I saw Dr. Tammy there. There was a large presence by all. No, she said you had been there early. A large presence of all the community. Santa Maria PD was there, the firemen, the fire department, Santa Maria Joint, and all the other community groups were out there, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of families, and it was a good time. Some people were on bikes. These events are usually for being on bikes and being more active, but there was just a very good outpour from the community. And I think last week I attended the new branding of Santa Maria Bonita School District. And so they presented two of the potential brands. And it's interesting. It was very beautiful. And one of them that we all agreed we liked was very representative of the community and the district and what we're looking to envision with our new values. So that's it. Thank you.
I've actually been pretty busy the last couple of weeks. Couldn't make it to Tunnel for their celebration because it conflicted with the opening of, I think they call it the Patch, the city out at Las Flores Ranch. And if you've not taken kids out there, be sure that you do, because it really was a lot of fun. I also borrowed some children and took them with me to the celebration at the Fair Park. They loved the crafts that were available for the kids. And I will say that the craft activities there were a lot of kids there, and some of them were fairly difficult. Yeah. But again, the location was really, really nice. There were quite a few people there, but it didn't feel like you were jam-packed together. And a lot of families with their kids and different outreach organizations were giving out information as well. The fire department and the police department were there. And so it was, I think, a very well-attended event. Over that weekend, Family Service Agency had their 50-year celebration at a fairly new plaza that has been named Machado Plaza. that is right there next to where Family Service Agency is, and it too featured activities and some community outreach people that were there. And there also the Rigetti Ballet Folklorico group was performing. I am in the process of attending some of the action team or one of the action team groups I am participating with. And so we either meet every week or every other week until we finish up in November. And there have been some very interesting thoughts and ideas and conversations. I have visited some classrooms at Ontiveros. I also, along with Luz Maria, attended the discussion, I guess, or meeting about the new branding, and it was people that had participated in this strategic planning process had been invited, and it was, again, very interesting to hear the different perspectives. Santa Barbara County School Board Association, we meet once a month at 8:30, and we're pretty much doing that on Zoom now. And so I hear about things going on in some of the surrounding districts. It's always interesting. And of course, from Dr. Salcido talks about county-wide initiatives. And one of them that she made a point of mentioning was and I don't really remember, I might have written it down, the training regarding school safety and putting some standardized protocols in place, which I think will be very helpful.
It's called I Love You Guys.
Yeah. Last week, Hancock had a very special meeting, which I did not attend, but I know that Dr. McDuffie attended and he spoke, and I was someplace else where they were discussing where Cuesta and Hancock are submitting an application to the state to be able to offer two different four-year degree programs. And one of the things that was mentioned at that county school board meeting was that the county school board was going to approve a resolution supporting that to send in with it. And I am hoping that that's something that we could possibly consider. The United Way had its mayor's gala this weekend, and as many of you know, they have a huge focus on literacy in our community and helping the homeless population. Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley had a 20-year celebration, and Mr. Beecher was there and I attended, and we heard from a student who had been in trouble and really struggled through school beginning in junior high, and how the support and the connection that he had made really helped him, and he has become a college graduate and successful, and it was very heartwarming. So investing and partnering with those organizations, FSA and Fighting Back, really have been very beneficial in our own school system. There was a parent information night last night at Fessler, made by Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley. It really had to do with how kids can conceal drugs, right there in their homes. But there was a big focus on fentanyl and the effects it has, and how it is at this point in time, the most dangerous drug that our kids are getting their hands on. So really some very specific information was shared with those parents. And as we know, not only do we have a cohort of teachers in the new teacher program, but we also have a very strong induction program for our first and second year teachers. And I've been invited to be on that advisory group, and it was quite eye-opening. The process is very rigorous, so that will be interesting. I think that's it. And some softball games I will throw in there too. Sundays have softball games for my granddaughter.
All right. I want to also commend the folks that organized the Open Streets event. I also had the pleasure of bumping into some of our Bonita staff there. And what was wonderful is they had books for our young people, and many of those were themed with Latino protagonists. So books either written about Latino characters or by Latinos. And I asked for a copy of each of those so I could share those with my students at the high school level. And so they were also really intrigued by, the beauty of those books. At the high school level, they're not as pretty anymore. The books, they're not as colorful. I dare say sometimes not as even as engaging, right? I love getting my hands on children's books because the art on those is just so wonderful. And one of the things that I noticed at the table was that there was one of the books, it was called Oaxaca, and it was a short story about the various wonderful cultural aspects, and that was a big hit for our families. So again, it's just a reminder, right, of the importance that representation matters for our families. And when I looked at it, even though my family is from Michoacan and from Jalisco, it allowed me to gain a deeper appreciation, right, for the many cultures that exist within our diverse community. So major props to our staff. Doing that on a Saturday, on a really hot day for hours on end, I know is no easy task. So again, thank you to our Bonita staff for representing. I also want to draw attention to October is Economic Education Month in California. And something that I'm really curious about is what are we currently doing to promote financial literacy for our students and for our families. And so my hope is that we can get an update as a board at some point on if we're not doing anything currently, hey, what can we do to step our game up? And then if we are doing some things, how can we be more intentional about that to help prepare our students and our families for, life, when it comes to the economy and how to be better prepared for that. It was really refreshing to hear our Fessler students talk about how they benefited from these elective courses and from AVID. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about is seeing our AVID programs expand in our district, because we know that when districts have an AVID throughout the district, not just with certain teachers, but where AVID lives throughout the school sites and throughout the district, it's more likely to lead to more of our students being prepared for college and career. And so I'm really excited to see that we're doing some work around expanding our AVID program. I did notice in one of the presentations some information about that. And so I look forward to hearing some more the progress that we're making around how are we expanding AVID at the elementary and middle school level, because I know statistically speaking how beneficial it is for our students. And I also know personally, on a personal note, I benefited from that at the high school level. And it definitely helped to prepare me to be able to be eligible to apply straight to a four-year university after high school. I also want to take a moment to recognize and honor October 9th, which is Indigenous Peoples Day. Today in our board meeting, we heard at least 3 different wonderful languages among the many that are available in our district. I heard English, Spanish, and I believe it was Mixteco. Hearing native tongues is music to my ears, especially because we know that many of these languages have survived despite current and historical discrimination. So I really appreciated seeing our young people and hearing our young people being proud of their native tongues. We know that thousands of the families in our district are Indigenous. And our families have actually requested for our district to provide all of the staff in our district with professional learning around how to better serve their children. And so that's something that I would also like to request is some type of presentation that teaches more about who are the students that are in front of us, and what we can do to improve their education. An example of that is just yesterday, MyCop, which is an organization that we partner with for interpretation services. Two of our Bonita graduates presented at an assembly for Indigenous Peoples Day at Santa Maria High School yesterday. And they presented about the diversity that exists within our Indigenous families, some of the challenges that many of our families face. Unfortunately, some of the challenges our students face, because oftentimes when our young people speak their native tongues, oftentimes they experience bullying as a result of it, discrimination as a result of it. And that's something that we clearly want to avoid, right? And so that's part of the reason why I want to learn the nuances, right? The things that maybe I don't know about, so that I could be a better informed board member to support their education. And just as an anecdote, when I first started teaching at Santa Maria High School in 2010, two students came to me and said, "Hey, Mr. Valencia, we'd like you to be our advisor for a club that we want to start that brings Indigenous students together and Mestizo students together, so that we could come together and promote more unity and less bullying and things like that." And at first, being new on campus again, I was kind of like trying to steer clear of sports involvement and clubs, and those things take time, right, to be an advisor. But I couldn't say no, because these young people said, we're tired of being bullied. We want to improve our self-esteem. We want to be proud of where we come from. And so that's part of the reason why I think it's so important that all of our staff learn about how we can be better allies to our students and our families. And I use that word ally intentionally, because on that little lanyard or keychain that our students created, that's exactly what it said. It said ALLY. I'm curious to know what the spirit was behind that.
Her name's Alma.
Is it Alma?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, so I was curious what that was about. But it definitely still applies, because I want to be an ally to our young people. I want to be an ally to our Indigenous students, especially those whose voices are often not a part of the mainstream. So I want to thank you all very much. I know October is a really long month. It's a tough month. So please hang in there, professionals, teachers, students, paras, everything in between. We really appreciate all the hard work you all are doing for our students. And so please remember to take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valencia, and board for your covering of the last board meeting, which I was not in attendance of. So I appreciate all of your hard work in that. I watched it. I did do my due diligence and view that on YouTube. So I appreciate you all very much. I really wasn't going to say much. I do want to kind of piggyback a little bit on the language discussion or thoughts you had, Mr. Valencia. And that when I was at Bread and Roses, a fundraiser for the fund for Santa Barbara this weekend, on Sunday, the blessing was spoken in the Chumash language, which was pretty amazing. And I talked with the two women that gave that blessing, and about having them come and speak with us here and acknowledge us being on traditional Indigenous people's lands, and share with us a little bit about their culture. So hopefully that will they're very excited about that. So hopefully that will come to fruition at some point. I tried to get a hold of Mr. Of Ken Khan, but he's a different band. These ladies are from the band in Santa Barbara, but they said they do a lot of outreach and would be happy to come. So I'll get a hold of them, and then we'll get that set up. So yeah, but that's really all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, President Hollinshead, board members. This Friday from 9:15 to about noon, our 8th grade junior high students will visit Allen Hancock College for Career Day. Each student has already completed a short career interest inventory to help them create a plan for the booths and departments they want to visit to learn more about the classes and trainings offered at Hancock. We are grateful to Allen Hancock College and its staff for putting together a comprehensive career exploration event for our students. At the end of September, the school year's first meeting of the student leaders and advisory team is taking place. 25 6th and 8th graders, 8th grade students from each school met for the first time. Icebreakers help the students learn about each other and their representative schools. The students also learned about organizational skills, Google email techniques, and calendar management. Through the years, the students will develop public speaking skills, and leadership experience. They will also engage in discussion and feedback on a variety of topics in district issues. One of their first responsibilities, they met via Zoom with the representatives that the strategic planning team met with and gave input. And I hear from Dr. Humphreys, it was a really good session, and they gave some really good feedback to the representatives from the branding company. So I'm very happy that they're off to a great start in regards to giving input to our district and our future. That's that. October 5th. This past October, sorry, we get a little giddy. This past October 5th, like October 5th, I attended the United Central Coast event hosted by Allen Hancock College and Cuesta College from San Luis Obispo. The kickoff event provided information about their venture to offer baccalaureate degrees on their campuses. Allen Hancock is applying to provide a Bachelor of Science in Applied Business, and Cuesta College would provide a Bachelor of Arts in Education. I had the opportunity to speak on the benefits of providing degrees here in our region. Obtaining a bachelor's degree in education would be of paramount importance for students who aspire to serve their community. This path not only benefits the students themselves, but also the Santa Maria community at large. It's a significant educational opportunity for our students. It will not only address local needs, build stronger community bonds, but it would also build stronger community bonds because students who have grown up in the area have existing relationships with their schools, with their community, with their teachers, and possess an innate understanding of the community's dynamics. So with this, they can establish meaningful connections with students and their fellow community members. Students who see familiar faces are more likely to feel comfortable and supported, motivated, leading to improved academic performance and a stronger sense of community cohesion, but also to meet our teacher shortages across the state. But here locally, our local students will receive an education degree from nearby institution like Cuesta College and are more likely to stay and teach in their community. So this is just a positive all around for Santa Maria economically and for our community. So I wanted to mention that. Finally, I attended the Open Streets event past Sunday. I did not see my board members there. God, we didn't run into each other, but I was there as well. It was such a chill vibe, a fun event. Oh, and I just wanted to mention as far as the going back to the Cuesta College and Allen Hancock, I've already written a letter of support on behalf of Santa Maria Bonita and myself. And so we can definitely talk about maybe doing a resolution, but I just want to let you all know that I've already put my support behind what they're doing there at Allen Hancock and Cuesta College. Okay. So getting back to Open Streets, it was a chill and fun event for our community. Our family and community engagement department had a booth to provide information and support. I don't play cornhole too well, but our families played it and won prizes. They had hula hoops, soccer balls, Play-Doh, basketballs. It was great. I look for SMBSD to continue to support Open Streets next year with even more involvement and opportunity to connect with our community. I want to thank Dr. Castilla Schiffer and the and I say here the family, but I mean the community engagement group, her crew, basically. Maria and Maria were the ones that I saw there. They're excellent representatives of the district, and I appreciate the service they provide to our community. It's truly an act of love. So I just had a great time there. Real quick, I wrote something down, and I'll finish with this. Today, I attended and helped welcome the DLI task force. Ms. Lo Chung Vu is also a part of that, task force, and they'll meet tomorrow as well. I'm excited about the passion and the expertise that I saw there today displayed. We're working with CABE, the California Bilingual Education Group. I'm really excited. One of the things that you've seen on the with the test scores that our DLI students had really good gains within the assessment piece. And so I'm excited about what we're doing here in formulating that task force as well. So with that, go Dodgers.
I dropped the ball on that. And so did the Dodgers.
Okay, yeah, okay. Bum.